To every veteran in this room, we salute you, and we really do. We worked hard with the veterans, and we've had a fantastic relationship. And this is a very big and important veteran state. I probably learned more about the veterans from dealing in New Hampshire than any other state. Please stand and receive our thanks. All veterans, do you mind? Please stand and receive our thanks. Thank you. That's a lot of veterans. Thank you. Thank you very much. Wow, that's a beautiful. A lot of times they'll say, whatever group it may be, please stand. And, you know, you have like two people stand up. I say, well, that's not too much. Let's change our speech, right? But when I came into office in 2017, our government had a disgracefully horrible situation going on. They betrayed its solemn pledge to America's veterans. You know that better than anybody. I learned a lot about it from your leadership in this state. Under the Obama-Biden administration, the VA was plagued by one horrific scandal after another. Remember, you turn on the news and you just see these horrible scandals having to do with the veterans. You didn't hear any of it. For 4 years, you literally heard that very little, and we did things that were really amazing, and I'm proud of. Thousands of veterans were put on secret medical wait lists, and many of them left to die without receiving any care or any aid under Obama. Some very bad people were abusing veterans in VA hospitals, including sadists. You had sadists. They were hitting the veterans when the veterans weren't in prime time, okay? They wouldn't have touched them in prime time, believe me, but they were hitting them when they were in trouble. And a lot of sadists, we got them all out. The VA employees were even caught stealing drugs intended for the treatment of our sick and wounded warriors, and they were stealing them and using them for themselves and selling them. But all of that changed when we arrived at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. We went from the absolutely worst, Brian, you know that. We went from the absolutely worst to, that was the worst presidency for the veterans, the previous presidency. Wonderful people. You're not allowed to even say that. It's not politically correct. I'll say it. To the greatest champion the veterans ever had in the White House. And it was very much promises made, promises kept, and a couple of the really big ones, just as I promised, I proudly signed the VA Accountability Act, allowing us to quickly terminate VA bureaucrats and bad people who mistreated our vets. We told more than 10,000 bad, corrupt, incompetent VA workers, people that were sadists, and they couldn't get rid. You couldn't get rid of them. You had no right. They could steal. They could beat people up. You couldn't do a damn thing, and we got it so you could fire them. And I said, you're fired. Get out, 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 out of here. 10,000. Sounds like a lot, but it's a big system. And we got 10,000 really, really bad people out, very, very evil people. They knew who they were. They couldn't do a thing about it. It was amazing. So we got that passed in Congress, if you can believe it. They were trying for 30 years to get it passed. I also signed Veterans' Choice and made that permanent. We got that passed in Congress also, which was really a big deal. That was a big deal. You have choice. You can go out. If you're not getting the treatment, you go out. But thanks to this landmark reform, 3 million veterans have been able to get care as needed and when they wanted it. You know, they'd wait in line sometime for weeks and months. And, you know, they have some great doctors in the VA. They have really good doctors, but you couldn't get to them. You couldn't get to them. People would wait for many months. They'd become terminally ill waiting, something that could have been fixed easily. They'd become terminally ill. And I got it so that you go outside, you get a doctor, we pay the bill, and you get taken care of immediately if you had to wait more than a short period of time. So it was a great thing. It was a great thing. That was a great thing. That was very important. They've been trying to get that, by the way, that one 52 years, Brian. They were trying to get it for 52 years. They couldn't get it done. You know, it just made so much sense right from the first time I heard it. And I heard it first up here from your people. Under the Trump administration, we secured record funding for the VA. We slashed VA waiting times by more than 33%. And even now there's a new chart that came out from our last period that it was 57%. That's a lot. and almost all veterans reported major improvements at their local VA facility once I became president. In fact, we hit an all-time record high of VA satisfaction of 92%. Nobody has even come close. And I got angry at my people. They say he's not a nice guy. Some people didn't like me too much, as you probably heard, because we were tough. We were tough. But they said, why is it 92? Why isn't it 100? And they left the room. They said, this guy's very difficult. But we really mean it. But we hit the highest approval rating we've ever had. And I have to tell you, that approval rating now is not doing so well. You know that. You know that. A lot of bad things are happening over there. What they're doing to dismantle that system that was so good. But to help combat veteran suicide, we delivered same-day mental health care at every VA facility in America and made great strides until Biden came along. Till he came along. In a few short years, we turned the VA from a national embarrassment into a national example of devotion and service and loyalty to the American veteran. It was amazing, an amazing thing and an amazing success. So we got it done pretty quickly. Once we got the legislation passed, I would say it moved along very quickly. Sadly, crooked Joe Biden, and that's what he is, he's a stone-cold thief. Crooked Joe Biden has been a disaster for American veterans. As one of his first acts in office, Biden gutted my historic VA reforms. He gutted them out, making it easier to remove bad VA employees from the job. And in a shocking act of betrayal of America's veterans, as well as the tens of thousands of dedicated professionals, and you do have great professionals at the VA, crooked Joe Biden is in the process of not removing people, but reinstating 5,000 of the 10,000 people that we fired who were fired for good reason, including statism and this, who were fired for very good reasons, and they want to give them back their full pay. They want to give them their jobs back. And we were very careful about that. We didn't get rid of people haphazardly. We got rid of people that were not doing their job, some really in bad cases, and some they just weren't doing their job. They didn't care. They didn't show up to work. And he wants to put at least half of them back, the same people. And it'll cost over $200 million to do that. I'd rather give the money to you directly. It's a lot better. It's amazing. I mean, it's amazing. It breaks your heart. It breaks your heart. That was such a big thing, and now they want to put a lot of those people back. Joe Biden puts bureaucrats first. I put veterans first, and I put America first. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. That's why today I'm announcing a number of specific actions I'll take to fulfill our sacred duty to our great American veterans. On day one of my new administration, I will fully restore the use of VA accountability. We're going to bring it back in full force. Full force. And we already have the legislation passed, so I don't have to go through Congress, which really, that's why it took 52 years, because they couldn't get it passed. But we have it passed. All we have to do is make it work. So we have the hardest part is done, and direct my Secretary of Veterans Affairs to fire every corrupt VA bureaucrat who Joe Biden has outrageously refused to remove from the job or put back in the job. Then instead of providing more than $200 million in back pay to VA workers like Biden is doing, I will ask Congress to take every penny of those funds to finally build a brand new state-of-the-art VA hospital right here in the great state of New Hampshire. Because I don't know if you know this, but we can say that no longer will New Hampshire be the only state in America without a full-service VA facility. You'll have it, and you'll have it done quickly. We have a great group. Did you know you're the only one that doesn't have one? All right, that's what you get with those Democrats. That's what happens. At the same time, so you're going to have a brand new VA hospital, beautiful, state of the art, top of the line. Top of the line. The only state that doesn't have one. I was waiting for that. Thank you. Who said that, by the way? Stand up. Okay. You know, I was going to say that, but then I thought I'd be politically correct. Thank you. Take good care of her. That's right. Yeah, it's a selfish guy. At the same time, well, he ran for president and he got 2 points. He ran without running. You know, he didn't want to announce. He wanted to run, but it's a shame. We could win the state so easy if we had help from the governor, but we never got help from the governor. We helped him, but he never helped us. So, but I'm glad you said it, because this way I can say I was so nice up in New Hampshire. No, he's not the same man now. He's not the same. He took a big beating. He took a big beating, knocking the hell out of everybody, and he took a big beating. And then he gets the first poll, and he sees in his own state he was in 7th place out of a group. At the same time, we will fully maintain the VA clinics in the rest of the state and address the severe shortage of nurses and other healthcare workers at the home for the retired veterans in Tilton. Anybody know that home in Tilton? I will once again make stopping veteran suicide a top priority of my administration. Terrible situation. I will ban the Department of Veterans Affairs from wasting a single cent to fund transgender surgeries or sex change procedures. Spend a lot of money. Those are they are very, very expensive operations. And you also know you have to go through tremendous drug therapy after that. And I was always told in the military, if you take much more than an aspirin, you can't do it. But the tremendous drug therapy, it's a lot of problems. You know, we had it stopped, and then he came in. One of the first things he did is he started that up again. Those precious taxpayer dollars should be going to care for our veterans in need, not to refund radical gender experiments for the communist left. Communist left. I'll also restore the Trump ban on transgender in the military. We're going to end that. You know, we had it banned. We had it banned. You know, I went to generals. I say, General, off the record, what do you think of transgender? Sir, is anybody listening, sir? What do you think? I don't like it, sir. And then I'd say to another one, you know, they're all afraid to talk about it, but, you know, I have to do what's right. You have to do what's right. And we have to help everybody. You have to help transgender. You have to help everybody. But this was just not something that was working out. And as soon as they came back, by a rigged election, by the way, as soon as they... Yeah. As soon as they came back, they approved that. That was one of the first things on their list. They approved it. So now they're doing a lot of things that shouldn't be done. If you talk to the real generals, not the television generals, the real generals. We got some. Hey, look, I knocked out ISIS in a few weeks with real generals. We have a great military. But we're not going to let our military go woke, that I can tell you. But the real generals in the military, down a little bit, those guys are incredible. The way they did that, the way they took out a lot of bad people, but they took out ISIS, the ISIS caliphate, 100%, and it was surgical. It was incredible. We will get critical race theory and all other woke lunacy out of the United States Armed Forces. And we will abolish every Biden COVID mandate and rehire every patriot who was fired from our military with an apology and with back pay. And in addition, I will make it a personal mission to totally eradicate veterans' homelessness. I mean, you have a situation in America. It's a scandal. It's a disgrace. What's happening now, nobody's ever seen. And it is a national tragedy that Joe Biden, Crooked Joe, he's more interested in where's the money coming from. To him. He's interested to him. How about all these things with the 30 corporations and the this and the that, the money flowing in, everybody getting money coming in from China. How can you be tough in China when they're paying you a lot of money? And see, they know too much. You know, we have a compromise. We have a Manchurian candidate. They know too much. So he can't be tough in China. That's why he allows blimps flying over the country, right over our nuclear sites. Let them come in. Let them take pictures. Oh, don't do anything about it. They'll tell everybody who's giving me all that money. He's a compromised candidate. And I'll tell you something. Out of respect for the office of president, I didn't talk this way 5 weeks ago, 6 weeks ago. I felt very badly about what was going on. But out of respect for the office of the president, I wouldn't have said the way I talk. He's a crooked person. He's a totally dishonest guy. So we'd say things, but I even changed his name. I took it away from Hillary. We call him Crooked Joe. Instead of Sleepy Joe, we call him Crooked Joe. I retired it. That was a great day for Hillary. Instead of Crooked Hillary, I said, we're removing the name from Crooked Hillary. Now we call her Beautiful, Beautiful Hillary. She's a beautiful woman. And we're giving it to Biden because he's a crooked person. But out of respect for the office, I would never have said that to this extent. And I never did. But now they indicted your president, your former president, who is very popular, 75 million people. They indicted him. So now they ripped off the top, they took the gloves off, and we can say whatever we want. And I'll tell you what he's done is a scandal the likes of which this country has never seen, and the fake news hates to talk about it. But it's a horrible thing that crooked Joe Biden has spent nearly $1 billion to house illegal aliens and foreign migrants who are pouring into our country. It's an invasion of our country. We had the safest border in history. Now we have the worst border probably in the world. But to house illegal aliens and foreign migrants in expensive luxury hotels, the best hotels in the country in many cases, while more than 33,000 Americans who have served this nation in uniform are homeless on our streets, okay? On day one, I will sign an executive order to cut off Joe Biden's massive spigot of funding for the shelter and transport of illegal aliens, which our country can't handle. And I will redirect that money to provide shelter and treatment for homeless American veterans. They'll be treated properly. Thank you very much. Furthermore, I will finally hold accountable all of the failed leaders and television generals who gave us Joe Biden's catastrophe in Afghanistan 2 years ago this month. In my opinion, I watched a lot of the parents. I spoke to many of those parents. I called them when it happened. What a horrible thing, and what they've gone through. There was no way that was going to happen. We were going out, but we were going to get out with strength, with dignity. What they did when they took the soldiers out first. No, you take the soldiers out last. You take them out last. We went 18 months without one soldier being killed. I spoke to the head of the Taliban. I said, don't do it, Abdul. Don't do it, Abdul. Same man who's still running it. But when you think of that horrible event, leaving untold numbers of Americans behind, 13 dead warriors, 35 horrifically wounded, nobody talks about them, but horrifically wounded warriors, and $85 billion worth of the finest military equipment on the planet, bought by me. We rebuilt the military. I rebuilt the entire U.S. military. A lot of that equipment was brand new, bought by me. It was the single most embarrassing day in the history of our country, in my opinion. I think it was, and I think it probably was what led Putin to say, this is the time. That country has had it. Because I guarantee you one thing, Putin was not going in with me, and neither was she going in China, into Taiwan. But Putin was not going into Ukraine. And we talked about it, too. And I got along with him great. They hate to hear, you got along with him. Yeah, it's always nice to get along. And, nobody was rougher. Look, I ended the pipeline. Nobody ever heard of Nord Stream 2, right, Brian? Nobody heard of Nord Stream 2. I said Nord Stream 2, nobody knew. That's a pipeline going to Germany and taking care of all of Europe. I ended it. It was dead. And then Biden approved it his first week. So what's going on there? Under my leadership, we were leaving Afghanistan with dignity and strength, and we would not, under any circumstances, what that was surrender and humiliation. That's what it was. I think it was the most embarrassing day in the history of our country. And we had it so solid. They weren't shooting at us. They knew better because they knew they were going to get absolutely decimated if they did. When I returned to the White House, we will restore peace through strength. That's what we had. We had peace through strength. I'm the only president in many, many decades, like 8 decades, like many, many years, that didn't have any wars. We got out of wars, and we won wars. We beat ISIS. We won wars. But we got out of wars, and everybody respected us. You know, 3 years ago, we were very respected. We were very respected. They didn't play games. Nobody played games, including trade, where we get screwed by everybody. We made great trade deals, even with China. They buy $50 billion a year because of what I did for our farmers and everybody else. And we were respected, and they didn't play games. We took in hundreds of billions of dollars through tariffs on China. No other president took in 10 cents. Hundreds of billions of dollars. They were not too fond of me, but I got along with President Xi also. We gave, you know, I just looked today. I just said, look it up. I was in the plane coming up. I say, look it up. What do we give Afghanistan? Does anybody have that note? I think I gave it to Corey. We give Afghanistan now billions of dollars. I said, I didn't know that. Billions of dollars in aid. A number that is so astronomical, and this goes on a yearly basis, and they need it for humanitarian and all of that. That's good. But let them give us back our equipment. They ought to give us back some of our equipment. You know, we're giving them $2.7 billion and $3 billion and $2 billion. I thought it would say maybe nothing, or maybe $100 million, or maybe something little. But the numbers are astronomical, what we give to Afghanistan. So that should be a condition of the continued aid. I mean, I don't want to hurt people, but they took $85 billion worth. They didn't take. We left because we were fools. We were stupid. We were stupid. I remember a certain general saying, sir, it's cheaper to leave the equipment behind, sir, because we were going to get out. But I would have kept Bagram, because Bagram is one of the biggest air bases in the world. Bagram cost us billions of dollars to build many years ago. And Bagram is 1 hour away from where China makes their nuclear, forget Afghanistan, where China makes their nuclear weapons. It's in Afghanistan. And they left Bagram. Late at night, they left the lights on. They left billions and billions of dollars, 1 hour away from and now China will soon be occupying that incredible base that we built many, many years ago. It's so sad. I mean, these people are just horrible. They're horrible.